Hey guys, how's it going? This is a pre-recorded video for a rainy day, a day that I don't have any content to push out on my channel because consistency is very important, and I want to be consistent on releasing new content consistently. And this is a really interesting video about on Marc Lakmaaker, or whatever. And I thought I'd share it because maybe somebody hasn't seen it, but I thought it was interesting, so I'm definitely gonna be sharing this video. So let's begin.
I know there's no fire, unfortunately, but thank you everyone for sticking it out. I know it's late in the afternoon, and I hear that there's an open bar later, and there ain't no party like a Benzinga party. So we'll try and keep this upbeat and hopefully help get the party started a little bit. Marc, you come from the capital markets.
Yeah.
You've been in the business for over almost 20 years in UK, Europe, and now North America. You know, you've just joined Aurora last November as the Vice President of Investor Relations.
Correct, yeah.
Can you give us a bit of an update? There's been a lot of news coming out about Aurora, as other companies in the industry, but you know, what's the big news about Aurora and the update on that business?
Oh, that's a really good question, and the news flow out of Aurora has been constant because we know there is a massive opportunity. In order to grab that early mover advantage, to capitalize on that opportunity, you have to move fast. We early on identified that we needed to be a vertically integrated company, a horizontally diversified, which means a broad portfolio of products, high quality cannabis flower, but up to derivative products. So we looked at how can we best do that, and we identified a number of critical success factors that include things like scale, low cost of production, scientific capabilities, R&D, brand development, etc. In order to achieve that, you can go after it organically, but we know that in order to grab the opportunity, we had to accelerate. And M&A has been a great tool for us, also with the availability of capital in the Canadian market, to accelerate that. And that has resulted in some 20 transactions in the last 2 years. The highline acquisitions obviously were Canamet, MedRelief, and Anandia, which we just closed. That's hugely exciting because that really builds the vertically integrated company. It means a company that is able to capture margin throughout the entire value chain. It also means that the individual elements support, strengthen, and accelerate each other. Just to give you an example about the Anandia acquisition, they have the ability, based on their IP, their knowledge, their background in cannabis plant science, and they're miles ahead of anyone else there, to develop strains specifically for growing in our automated facilities. They're able to develop strains that will very narrowly target certain medical conditions. And how do we know that we need that particular cannabinoid terpene profile? Well, we know that through being vertically integrated, through having vast repository of data, through MedRelief, through Canamet, through Aurora, and through having Canvas RX, where we got a lot of efficacy data and also consumer experience or user experience data. So at the one end, we've got the identification of what's needed. We're doing clinical trials. Out of that comes what kind of substance, what kind of profile would be best for a particular medical condition. And we feed that all the way back to the plant scientists who are right at the beginning of the value chain. And they develop them, and that then connects with our operations. So that's really what we've been doing, and that's why
The ability to be able to make specific strains for a specific element, like a specific disease, like sickness, is very valuable in the medical market. So Aurora is really heavily invested into the medical side. I think Canopy is also invested in the medical side, but the problem with Canopy is they have, okay, so let me get you this straight. Money is big factor in the cannabis industry, but talent and people is also not a big factor. Steve Jobs took a company that was almost bankrupt, and he turned it into a multi-billion, like the #1 company in the world. Aurora can do that too. I mean, Aurora, they could do that without being bought out. I mean, they could do it, but it'd be easier if they had a partner like, you know, Diageo or Coke. But Coke is gone now because they just spent $5 billion on a coffee, like whatever coffee shop in Europe. So I don't think they're going to be making a big acquisition anytime soon or investment. So Coke's gone. I don't think, unless Coke goes into like a smaller LP like Organigram or CanTrust, I could see that happening. But Aurora, probably not, because it's expensive. But who knows? We'll see what happens. But I guess back to the video.
Why we're now got an organization that we believe ticks all the boxes. Sorry, my grammar's going out of the window. Being European, I'm a bit sketchy on my grammar. But we now got an organization with those acquisitions that really ticks all the boxes. We're not done yet. There's a lot of other opportunities out there. There's a lot of very compelling technologies, brands, products, what have you out there. But with Canamet, MedRelief, Anandia, and all the other transactions that we've done, we've established this company that meets the critical success factors.
Amazing. There's a lot going on in there.
Yeah, just a wee bit.
And it's, unfortunately, I wish we had more time to unpack it, because there is so much going on. And I think, you know, we just heard it from the previous panel about, you know, how to scale in this industry. Yeah. And having been through all of the acquisitions and the changes that Aurora's seen in the last few years, what are your lessons for those coming into the market now of how they can scale up, you know, in relatively a short amount of time, as Aurora has done? What are the lessons learned for the future?
Now, obviously, the answer I have to give to anyone who's thinking of coming into the industry, I'm sorry, we're there already. But in fairness, what we have learned and what we kind of knew from the beginning and have executed against is that integration needs to be a core competency. So if you look at all the transactions that we've done, we have a specialist integration team. It's not just something we buy a company and go like, hey, we like you, you like us, let's go work together. We've got a dedicated integration team headed by André Jérôme, who used to do global integrations for Vodafone, which is a $65 billion company. A very clearly structured process.
You heard that? So the integration team, the guy that's leading it, used to lead a $65 billion company. So Aurora is what, like $6 billion. So yeah, they have a very good team. They have very good management. Sometimes money can't replace those kind of people, but money really does help. And Canopy is the most safest stock on the market, and Bruce Linton is clearly a genius. I think he's a genius. He's a very smart person, and I guess he's kind of humble too, because he doesn't, even though he's rich, he doesn't go out there and buy a nice car or a nice suit or, you know, live a lavish lifestyle. He lives like ordinary people, and he works extremely hard. Oh, let's continue the video.
And that involves both organizations on sort of an equal level. We're not like Pac-Man, you know, gobbling up companies. No, we're looking to realize strategic synergies. And in order to realize those synergies, obviously it's the synergies that are being created by bringing the two companies together. So we've got an integrations team, and then each organization has got integration leads in functional leads. And that's really become a core competency of us that has enabled us to integrate acquisitions very rapidly, such as Canamet, and we're now doing the same with MedRelief and Anandia. I think that's a very important lesson, because you see more cannabis companies now diversifying. But in diversifying, you have to ensure that the different elements to your company, the different business units, operational, whatever you want to call them, that they talk to each other. And I think we've got a culture where people do that naturally. Our ops people talk to our marketing people, talk to our efficacy. People talk to our educators. So it's a really integrated whole. Because together we're much stronger than the sum of our parts, which is a horrible cliche, but it's very true. And that's what we're trying to do. We're creating an organization where the individual parts accelerate each other. So what's the lesson learned? If you are diversifying, if you're scaling up, make sure that all parts of the company talk to each other. And make sure that whatever you do connects to what is happening in the market.
And I think that's great advice no matter what industry you're in. I really don't think it's just a cannabis.
Yeah, I don't think it's magic.
Yeah. So, we've talked a lot about M&A and acquisition, and we've certainly seen a lot of investment in the industry, especially just this week with Constellation Brands and their investment in Canopy, and obviously Molson partnering with Hydropothecary. Yeah. In 6 months, post-legalization, things I think are going to be very different. What do you think, the industry itself, and going back to those acquisitions and M&A, what do you think we can expect 6 months from now for this industry?
It's a really good question. 6 months is not a very long timeline normally, but this being the cannabis industry, it might as well be 10 years because things are moving at such a rapid pace. What we're going to see is we're going to see a separation of the companies that are able to execute from the companies that are, I'm not going to say become marginalized, but that will find it a struggle to deliver the margins they were thinking they would be delivering. We're going to probably see a bit of a shakedown as well. I had dinner with some investment bankers last night, and I think the sentiment has been mirrored in this room earlier today as well. It's becoming harder to raise capital for companies. So the companies that are not quite there yet.
You guys heard that, right? So be careful about investing into smaller companies. If you're watching my video, just, like he said, he thinks that not all of them gonna make it, and some of the cannabis producers gonna have very low margins. So just be careful when you're purchasing a cannabis company. And then right now he's also saying that it's really hard for these companies to raise money too, like the cannabis companies. At least that's according to him. And let's continue the video.
A number of them, unless if they have some particularly strong differentiating factor, are going to find it difficult to pull their company across the finishing line, or not the finishing line, because October 17 is really, it's the start of everything. But 6 months from now, we're going to see which companies are executing. And you already see a differentiation there in that we obviously have a number of provinces announcing what LPs they're doing business with. And you see a relatively small group of companies that is represented there. And we're now in an environment where, looking at the surface, it looks fragmented with over 100 LPs, but only about 37 of those have a sales license, and an even smaller group is represented as suppliers to the provinces. So 6 months from now, I think we'll start to see the separation. And beyond that, I think we're going to see, more consolidation. And I think, in the next 6 months, we'll see more consolidation. But we're really going to see shakedown of companies that don't quite have the differentiation or the capital structure or the ability to produce at a low enough cost to really make it in that market. So companies that will have to look for alternative business models.
And you had mentioned earlier that, Aurora is really invested in the science and the research behind cannabis. Do you feel like that's part of that differentiation, and that, how important do you feel the research and clinical trials? I mean, you guys just announced a partnership with McGill University in Montreal, doing research around chronic pain, as well as the related anxiety and depression as part of managing chronic pain. So how important is that for licensed producers to be part of the research?
To me, it's a critical factor. If you look at what our objective is to be a scale and margin leader across the globe in both adult consumer use and, very importantly, medical cannabis. The medical cannabis market, I believe, is going to be a lot bigger than people realize now. If you look at cannabis, It's an example I've used before.
I heard that bigger than what everyone believes. So, and Aurora has not even started with the international market yet. We still haven't really saw some really good numbers together with Metroleaf. So, I'm hoping it's gonna be good, because Canopy's increasing their revenue in Germany, and Aurora's ahead of them, because they have 25,000 pharmacies, plus Pandanios, now called Aurora Germany, is expanding like crazy. They have 45-foot people on the ground, just like trying to establish distribution channels and business connections. So yeah, and the 1 million square feet in Denmark, they're not going to be growing cannabis in that facility and then shipping it back to Canada and selling it. They're going to be selling it all over Europe. So at least that's what I think is going to happen. So you have to take that into consideration, that, you know, that Denmark facility, that 1 million square feet facility, it's going to be selling product, and it's going to put a big factor into Aurora's margins down the road. I guess we'll continue with the video.
Or if you'd asked a group of 100 doctors a few years ago, what's the pharmaceutical compound with the broadest medical utility, people would have said, all 100 would have said aspirin. Ask that same group now, a large and growing percentage will say cannabis, because we're discovering more and more applications for cannabis, and that's only going to be bigger. Now, in order to establish yourself as a credible producer of medical cannabis, you have to do research. You have to be involved in clinical trials, in medical research that's not necessarily medical trials. You have to be able to access data, generate data, and through Canvas RX, through Canamet, through Metroleaf, through Aurora, we've got that access to data. Through the science teams at these different companies and in India, we've got the ability to develop products specifically for the medical markets, products that are narrowly targeted at specific therapeutic indications. So if a doctor at some point in the future is going to be prescribing something for instance, arthritis, the doctor is probably going to go and look into the scientific literature, where the doctor will find a clinical trial on the efficacy, finds out, yes, there is good efficacy, and hey, it's got our name under it. So it's part of brand building as well in the medical market. And the medical market, we believe, is going to be a significant multiple of the Canadian adult consumer use market. So that's why science is critical. But throughout the entire value chain, I mentioned in India, the plant science, the ability to develop strains with specific traits that make it easier to grow, quicker to grow, higher efficiency, you know, resistance to external impacts, strains with very specific cannabinoid terpene profiles. You know, if you don't have that, it's going to be more difficult to develop those high margin, specialized products that people are going to be looking for.
For sure. I think there's so much depth to these topics. It's really hard to go into in 15 minutes, but unfortunately that is the end of our time. I want to thank you, Marc, for sharing so much with us. I think that was really interesting.
I guess that's it for the video. It's gonna be just this video. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this content, please give me a thumbs up. If you dislike it, please give me a thumbs down. Subscribe for future updates, and have a great day. Bye.